You're about to watch the last ever financial planning video you will ever need, ever. And I say that in all seriousness because I do want this video to be the last thing that you will have to use as a reference point for your financial education and financial planning. Now, to that spirit, what that means is that you're not going to be getting a lot of finer details and a lot of technical, tactical types of advice. You're going to be getting things like strategies and philosophies and approaches that you can take in any era with any type of investment strategy or philosophy, etc., etc. So this video is meant to be evergreen because I don't know if you're going to be watching this 10 years from now, 20 years from now, however long this is going to end up on YouTube before YouTube crashes or goes bankrupt or something like this. But however long YouTube is around, this video is going to be around. So you're probably going to reference this video at a later time where the financial tactics and technicalities that are in the industry aren't going to be as relevant anymore. And the specific moves that you would make or the specific account you would open, the specific stock you would purchase, whatever it is, those things aren't going to be as relevant 10, 20, 30 years from now, right? So we're not going to go deep into the details of it. We're going to cover the specific philosophies and strategies that you need to know to make the moves that you got to make your life the life that you want it to be financially, right? To achieve the goals that you want to achieve financially. So that being said, I'm very, very, very excited about this video, and I'm going to jump into the presentation. So here we go. The name of the video presentation is Leverage, the last ever financial planning video you'll ever need ever. And this video presentation, I'm going to use my keyboard for a clicker. This video presentation is based on the book Leverage, which is now available on Amazon. If you're watching this, that means you can actually get this book as well. The link is in the description. You can get it as an ebook or a physical book, and you can kind of use it as a reference point to this video. There are some things in this video that I'll cover that aren't in the book, and there are some things in the book that aren't in this video. So they are meant to go hand in hand, but even if you just watched this video and you didn't go purchase the book or read the book, you should be fine. So that's kind of the whole purpose behind doing the video version of this book. What this video is not is time specific, meaning that the idea is for this book or this video to apply to any era, right? And so the resource specificness of this book is also not there. So whether or not you have a lot of resources is irrelevant. What you do with it is what matters. What you do with your resources is what's important, and we'll talk about that as well. This book is not tactical, meaning tactics and specific moves that you can make, they can fade with time, right? They can become irrelevant with the passing of time. And of course, it's not going to be sugar-coated. So there are some things that we're going to talk about with personalities and the general philosophies around money that might not be pleasant for some people. So this isn't going to be sugar-coated because the idea is to give you the things that you need to actually make changes in your life. That's the goal here. What this video is timeless, intended to be timeless anyway. So anyone watching this video at any time should be able to get something out of it. It is customizable, meaning depending on your personality and the resources and everything that you have, the ideas can change to fit more for you, right? And then there's strategy driven. So we're focused more on strategies and philosophies than we are on tactics. And then of course, action oriented. There are going to be action steps at the end of the whole thing, and you'll actually see those timestamps in there as well. All right, so if you wanted to follow me or ask me direct questions, specific questions, that's my @ You can find that pretty much anywhere. And of course, please subscribe to the YouTube channel because it's a big deal for me. I'm trying to deliver as much value as humanly possible to you guys with what I know and make it be real value so that you can actually implement and use in your life, so on and so forth. So subscribe to the channel and tell all your friends and family to subscribe so that we can build a nice big community where everybody knows what the hell they're doing and we have financial freedom. Okay, moving on. All right, so table of contents, here we go. So we have the intro that we're gonna go into, the part 1. So I guess chapter 2 is part 1. It's kind of confusing, but whatever. The money personalities, and then we have the cost of freedom. It's kind of cryptic. We have resource management, and we're going to go through a strong plan so the elements of a strong plan. And of course, your next moves. So this is our table of contents for the presentation that you're about to go through. Video tools, I'll be sharing certain tools, resources as we go through the video, and the links to all of those things are going to be in the description. And here we go, chapter 1 or section 1. The early epiphany for me was the fact that consultants have limits. The reason why I wrote this book and the reason why I decided to create this video is that there's a limit on my time, right? So the consultant's limit is that I can't sit with you one-on-one, or, everybody who wants financial education. I can't sit with every single person one-on-one. I just don't have that many hours in a day. It's impossible. There's millions of people who want to be financially free, right? So the idea is, since I'm limited on time, I'm going to create something that will hopefully act as your North Star, right? So this video, as well as the book, are meant to be your North Star. They're meant to serve as the things that you can, the overall direction that you can follow to get to financial freedom, right? So what that means to you and what it takes for you to become financially free may be different than a lot of other people. But the North Star is what? Financial freedom. We want to be free financially. We don't want to be a slave to the rat race. We don't want to be a slave to the dollar or the euro or the pound or wherever you are. You don't want to be slave to money. You want to enjoy your time and you want to be free and all of that stuff. And that's the North Star. So it doesn't really matter who you are, where you're coming from, what your assets and resources, none of those things matter, right? The goal for this video is to get you to that North Star. And this was the epiphany, basically. It's like I knew I was limited on time and I needed to make something to make sure that you guys have what you need if I can't speak with you one-on-one, right? That's the whole goal here. The challenge that we have is a financial plan typically is made for a person or a family or a business, and it's custom. It's like custom made for somebody. It requires an intensive Q&A session, and we would go through a discovery, and I would ask you 1,000,001 questions. Not really, but I ask you a pretty comprehensive set of questions that help me understand what you are working with and where you want to go, right? And through that, I also kind of get to learn a little bit more about your personality around money as well, and I can customize my advice and my consultation for you, right? So since that is the challenge currently, I have to be able to kind of do all of those things through this video. Therefore, the video is going to be pretty robust. The perfect plan is going to combine your goals, which is what you want to have or do or be or make, whatever those goals that we're trying to accomplish, and then your willingness and ability to invest time, energy, money, and then we're going to talk about the other resource as well, because there's another very important resource. But the perfect plan involves the perfect synchronization and synergy, let's say, between your goals and what you want, with your ability to invest your time, energy, and or money, and the strategies that you use, the actual action steps that you use, the philosophies, etc., that you use to get those things. So this would be the perfect plan, for any person, right? It has the through line between all of these things, and it connects all of these things, and it should work for technically everybody. The questions that we are going to be answering today are as follows. So what is your financial personality and how can you plan for it? It's pretty important. How much does your financial freedom cost? Everyone has a number. We got to figure yours out. And what resources do you bring to the table? And probably what's more important, which ones are you willing to invest, right? So you have your resources. Everybody has time. Everybody has energy. Some people have money. Some people don't. But everybody does have time and energy, creativity, ingenuity. How much of that are you willing to invest? Big question. And 4, what are the elements of a strong financial business plan, and which ones do you have, and which ones do you need, and which ones should you actually be using? Because you may be using something that's not the most, valuable return of your investment, right? So these are the questions that we are going to be answering in our video presentation today. Right, here we go. Here we go. This is where it gets fun. Okay, the money personalities. Okay, so how are our personalities formed? I'm not going to do a deep dive into psychology. I'm not a psychiatrist or a psychologist, but I am pretty interested in this particular topic because I had to change my own money personality to be able to get financially free, right? So it's a kind of a big deal, and it was an obsession for me to figure this whole piece out. So how our personalities are formed, obviously there's nature, right? So genetics, And the part with nature, so the question that to ask, from yourself to try to figure out what your natural reactions are you more of an impulsive person, or do you take time to make financial decisions, right? That's a pretty good binary type of a question. Or do you fall in the middle? That could be it. But it's usually figuring out which side of that scale you fall on is enough to actually make the moves that you need. But we're going to go a little bit deeper into it as well. But it's just good to know, even just answering that simple question: are you impulsive, or do you take time to make financial decisions? That's pretty good to know and be aware of, to just be aware of what kind of personality you have and how you need to navigate that. Then there's the nurture side of things. So the upbringing, the lessons that you learned, the things that you heard, the models that you had in life, experiences that you went through, all of that stuff, that counts under nurture, right? So here's my story, and maybe you might be able to relate to this. That's me. And my parents had different views on money, right? So my dad was pretty financially irresponsible, and he spent every money that came into the house. And my mom was the earner and would earn what he spent. So this is kind of the reverse of traditionally what it's like, especially for a Persian, traditional Persian family, right? So eventually they separated, obviously, because financial problems usually cause most divorces. And my mom brought my sister and myself to the United States. Along the way, she got scammed a few times because she wasn't educated in the financial system, she didn't speak the language, so on and so forth. And so because she got scammed, her worldview and her money personality changed, right? Rich people are greedy and shady. They've ripped people off to get to where they are. These are things that I have heard my mom say to me. Be careful when you're dealing with these types of people. Always be careful when you're out there, like out in the world, right? Because people are selfish and they're only out to care for themselves. These are the types of things that I heard. So her words and, of course, my dad's modeling impacted me, because on one side my mom is saying one thing, and on the other side I'm seeing my dad be financially irresponsible. And there were I remember arguments around money, and I remember certain things happen that just were not appropriate, right? So I spent every paycheck I had as an adult. I didn't save a penny. And I worked hard. It's not like I didn't make money, but my internal belief system was that rich people are greedy and they screwed other people to get rich. And if I'm going to be rich, that means I'm greedy. So the best way for me not to be greedy is to spend my money. And so I would spend it on dinners with, my girlfriend and all her friends, or I would go just find stupid reasons to get rid of the money. And I didn't save anything. And that combined with just some of the belief systems that, oh, well, your mom believes that rich people are shady and they're greedy. So that means that, subconsciously you can't be rich, because then your mom would think that you're greedy and you're shady, right? These are the types of conversation. And this wasn't an active conversation that I was having. This was stuff that was running in the background. And all of my decisions in my young adult years were being driven by this philosophy. So you can just see that if somebody's not aware of what's going on internally and behind the scenes, under the hood, whatever analogy you want to use, you can see that this type of stuff can actually impact somebody's decision-making process. And it really is connecting the dots. And the big one for me was the, rich people are greedy thing. That was a big thing for me, because there was a long time that I was like really hustling and I was trying, and I'm like, man, like I am trying, but I'm also sabotaging myself. And what's happening? Like, I'm making money. And so this is where a little bit of a problem showed itself, and I was like, I maybe need to like kind of dive deep on this and figure out what the heck is going on with me. So, then I found out the rest of it, and I was like, wow, okay, I get it. Now I understand. And I don't think I have fully figured all of my, kinks out, but I think for the most part, I have. And I'm honestly very relieved and excited about it. So this is my story of how I had my initial money personality built up, right? And then now we're going to go into the other personality types and how to navigate your personality type. So let's meet them. Personality number 1 is the saver. So this was not me, clearly. So the saver, the bio is basically, the tagline that I came up with. The saver saves to save themselves from needing to be saved, right? That's the saver, because they're really worried about having, needing the money or never be, yeah, whatever the quirk is, whatever that internal conversation is. It's usually a situation of lack and fear that makes a saver who they are, and different from the rest of the personalities. The demographic is this, right? So they're the most conservative. They turn off the lights when they leave the room. They're more interested in the percentage on the savings account and at the bank than they are at buying new things and making new purchases. The challenge for this particular personality is that because they are so restrictive on a lot of things and they pinch pennies essentially, they're unable to fully enjoy life because they have a lot of self-imposed limits. So growth is much slower for this type of a personality because their investments are also conservative, if they even take investments, right? They may just be in fixed return accounts. So the objective here is to budget towards enjoyment. And we'll talk about the full budgeting plan later. But for this particular personality, you want to budget towards enjoyment. Take 10% of whatever you're making and spend it only on the things that you actually want and enjoy. Blow the money, right? You have to flex the muscle of spending and enjoying the money, because you won't be able to take it with you. And even if you want to leave it for your estate and for your family and kids and things like that, you still have to be able to learn how to enjoy and teach your family, hey, the money is there so that you can enjoy it, as well as use it for responsibilities and goals and philanthropy or whatever it may be, right? Find balance between security and risk to find better growth options. Pretty simple. Save towards income investments and passive income opportunities, and this is towards freedom. We're going to run across this theme a lot as well because we're talking about freedom, right? And freedom comes through machines or investments or certain things that can run without you, that will pay you income and you can afford to be free. Personality number 2, the spender. That's right. This was me. So I think I was actually maybe a mixture of this and another personality. The spender likes, sales, right? The spender spends because they know they can't take it with them. So why not? And the demographic is, spending equals emotional satisfaction. They get a high from spending. They shop just to shop. They love bargains, obviously. They're aware of the addiction. Towards the beginning, I was not. And eventually, I became aware of my addiction. And they were steady investors or not at all. And me, I was not at all. I was the worst kind of spender. And, it actually even got me in a bad situation. So the challenge is right here, right? It says, so credit cards are the Achilles heel of spenders. Same for me. Their biggest weakness, their worst enemy disguised as their best friend, right? Because I could charge it and I'll pay it back later. That's what the conversation is. The objective here is to only spend on credit what you can actually pay for with cash. That way you can avoid the digging of the hole of bad debt, right? There is such a thing as good debt. Yes, we'll talk about that. But the question in this particular context is not good debt, right? The subject matter is not good debt, it's bad debt. And bad debt is things like credit cards being spent on things that are just bullshit, going out for drinks and things like that. And so you only spend what you have allotted for that activity with cash. You don't spend anything more than the cash that you have in your account, and you immediately pay that credit balance off with the cash, and that's how you build a strong credit history with different credit agencies, and you build a strong credit score. You use your credit, but you pay it off. Don't be fooled by this idea that, hey, if you carry a credit card balance, it's actually good for your credit. It's not. It's really not. It's the regular paying off of the majority of the balance or the entire balance that actually gives you really good credit. View change from spending for dopamine to saving for eternal freedom. So it's a framing change, right? So you spend to get high, essentially, because the dopamine rush, when you swipe that card, it gives you a dopamine rush. So if you're spending because of the dopamine rush and the enjoyment of it, you got to change your framing to, this money can actually make me free so that I can buy as much as I want. I can go shopping as often as I want. That's the kind of initial sacrifice. And it's not really even a sacrifice, because once we get to the budgeting plan, you'll see that there's money allotted for everything. You should be able to enjoy your money as you're going through the come up anyways. But it's a perspective change. People who are spenders, when they hear the word budget, they freak out. And they're like, oh, I don't want that means you want to restrict me. You don't want to let me be freedom. So look, a budget will be your very best friend, and it doesn't have to limit your fun, right? So that's literally the point that we were just talking about. Okay, personality number 3, the debtor, right? So if you're a spender, you end up being a debtor. Basically, the person that ends up in debt. And so the tagline here is, so you think you can spend? Hold my beer. The spender that has lost their mind is a debtor. Spends more than earns, doesn't track spending, no budgeting, investing, or saving. This was kind of me. So like, I was initially in this place, and then I saw that, oh my God, if I don't make the adjustments, I'm going to be in a really bad situation very quickly. And so I made the changes that I needed to make. But this was the path that I was on. I went from a spender to a debtor. And that's what happens. Spenders eventually become debtors. If they don't pay attention to what's going on and they don't address it, eventually it will turn into this, because their credit card is their best friend. Remember that. The challenge here is for the debtor to stop digging the hole. There are solutions for recovery, but the first thing is to stop the bleeding and stop using debt, stop using credit cards and things like that. Objective number 1 is stop spending now. Dedicate all of your discretionary income to pay off your debt balances. There are debt settlement programs to help with this. We'll talk about the link. There's a link in the description, but we'll talk about this later as well. And then once you're out of debt, you set a budget and plan to never go back into debt again. So if you want to spend, you spend according to your budget. If you want to splurge, you splurge according to your budget. And accordingly, you also save and invest so that you can be free, right? So, personality number 4, the big spender. So this is, the person that eats on plates of marble and craps on toilets of gold. There's nothing but silk that touches their body, and their pets have butlers. Loves nice things and big brands, no bargain shopping. These are the Jones that everybody's trying to keep up with. So they earn big, they spend big, they borrow big, and they invest big. And this may sound great, but it can have a drawback as well. So the challenge is that because they're relying on their earning power to pay for everything instead of passive income, the income is insecure at that point. Because if there's anything that happens that you haven't accounted for and you can't earn anymore, then you're in trouble. And sometimes people like this don't like looking at things like life insurance or disability insurance or things like that. And they view it as, for whatever reason, something that's not worthy of the expenditure. And so they end up in trouble when their earning power stops. So this is it's not that big of a thing, because for somebody who is a big spender, you tell them, yeah, but what if you can't? And then they just can't even imagine a reality where their earning power has taken a hit for whatever reason. So because that is such an unrealistic part of reality for them, this is probably the biggest blind spot out of everything that we've discussed so far, is the person that thinks they're untouchable, but they actually kind of do have a pretty big chink in their armor. So the number 1 objective here is to think passive. Use the money that you have to buy more income so that you can keep spending, right? So think passive. Invest the money that you're spending on income investments and businesses. We talked about it. Eventually, your passive income will pay for all the luxury you want. And of course, personality number 5 is the investor. And I mean, if you can spend your money to buy more money, why wouldn't you do that? That's the personality of the investor. I want to spend my money to get more money with my money. That's basically the personality of an investor. The demographic is they're consciously aware of every penny. They invest with the end goal in mind. And the end goal is passive income. And they only take enough risk to get to the desired goal. The big spender may make types of investments that give them the rush of a big transaction or a big purchase or something like that, not necessarily with the thought in mind that, yeah, I'm investing because I want freedom. I'm investing because I want no worries ever. I don't want drama. I want just this coasting type of life. That's what an investor tries to emulate or tries to bring into the picture. So the whole thing is that they only take enough risk to get the desired goal. That's very, very important. So yeah, of course, they'll take more risk than the original saver, right? They'll be earning 15%, 20% on their portfolios, 30%, whatever it may be. But they're not going to take the type of risk that would sacrifice the whole thing. and they would lose the whole thing. They would never risk the entire thing. So that's the thing. They will risk as much as they need to. They will take as much risk as they need to take to get the goal, but they will never take so much risk that it will bring the entire empire down. Challenges is for the person like this is that maybe they just may be too narrow with their portfolio. They may only have a series of investments that they know really, really well that they're only using, and they don't want to look at anything else. And because of that, if something were to ever happen, even if it's like the most golden egg type of investment, if something were to happen, you just want to have a backup just in case this one doesn't work, that you can go get another thing that will pay you similar rates, returns, pay you similar income as this, and it will still fall into all of the parameters that makes, for a good investment in your opinion, in your eyes. The objective here is, keep doing what you're doing, honestly. Maybe broaden your horizons. That's kind of the only advice for a person like this. Think, passive income investments, business ideas, and things like that. All right, so the secret sauce of the wealthy. This is kind of really the thesis of the entire video and book. Leverage. It's kind of the name of the game. That's basically the skill. So if you mastered the concept of leverage, you will probably be all right. It's one of those things that truly is evergreen. Leverage has, the concept of leveraging has been around for such a long time, literally for centuries and centuries, ever since the very, very, very beginning of mankind, right? So somebody putting a sharp stone at the end of a stick to hunt easier, that's leverage. Somebody lighting something on fire to heat themselves up or to cook their meal or to protect against predators, that's leverage. If somebody knows how to make fire and the other person doesn't, who do you think is gonna survive longer, right? So that's basically leverage, and it's been around for a very, 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 very long time. And this is kind of the secret sauce. That's why the name of this video is leverage. That's why the name of the book is leverage, right? So leverage is the secret sauce. To do more with less. To make something seemingly impossible happen with little to no resources. To work smarter instead of harder. Never too proud for a bargain or for free stuff. So this is actually specific. I've seen so many people in my community in the LA area that I know that make very good money, but they're never too proud for a bargain. They're never too proud to get something for free. And that includes negotiating you for a business. So I know, and there's a guy who's very, very popular on the internet, in case you've never heard of him. His name is Alex Hormozy. He put a video out. It's like it's super low quality, like no production value. He's basically giving like a lecture. The camera is positioned in like this weird way. It's really not something that you would assume has, $1 billion worth of game in that one video. And that one video gave this concept of here's how to negotiate to buy something for free, to buy business for free. And he goes through the example of how he bought one of his locations literally for a handshake, nothing out of pocket. And that's the personality of a wealthy. That means leverage. If you know how to do something like that, basically in a conversation. If I knew how to have a simple conversation and I walk away with a handshake and now I took over your business, you sold me your business based on a conversation and an agreement that we made, put it in a contract, now I've taken over that income source. That's leverage. That's very, very, very powerful. And I wish I knew the title of the video. I'm going to try, maybe we'll try to get it and put kind of like the thumbnail here so you guys can go watch it. But it's a very, 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 very powerful video, and you should watch everything that Hormozy puts out, because the guy is probably, in my humble opinion, he's the best business teacher that exists on YouTube right now. So this is the thing, right? So leverage is the name of the game, and it's something that you need to learn how to master. Right, so I kind of got ahead of myself. If they can get a business for free or with nothing out of pocket, they'll do it. Cost of freedom is part 2. And this is a little bit cryptic, but this means something. So what does your financial freedom cost? This is very, very important. This is a really important number to figure out. And so we have our young professional here who just achieved financial freedom. It means different things to different people. You know, it's a subjective term. For some people, it means enough to pay for the bills. For other people, enough to pay for themselves and those that they love. For other people, it means more than enough to buy everything they could ever dream of for themselves and for everybody that they love, right? No matter the person, the objective is the same. You want to be free, so you got to figure out what that means. What does that cost? Whatever your dream lifestyle is, what does that lifestyle cost? And then now let's solve to pay for that lifestyle passively. That's it. That's the name of the game here. That's all we're trying to do. Figure out exactly what your perfect life, and again, it means different things to different people. We got to figure out what freedom means for you, and then figure out how to get it. That's it. That's the name of the game. That's the presentation we're going through. To figure out what your life costs, this is a free calculator that I created. You can just go to that domain, armanvakili.com/free calculators, and get yourself a free financial freedom calculator. And it has a full list of all of the life's expenditures, and we're going to go through them right now as well. If you want to do it right now, you can through pen and paper, but there's an actual calculator over there. So here's the formula. This is how we do it, right? So you got to figure out what your life costs. This includes adding up all of these items. So rent or mortgage, food, utilities, all of that. Just read through the list. All of these things as well. So most people don't include this as a cost in life. I think the life insurance, disability insurance, all of your insurance stuff that is going to secure you when shit hits the fan, that's very important, and that should be calculated into your perfect life. Retirement contributions. So what you want to save towards your retirement to continue this perfect life, that needs to be included in your cost of living. Your vices and your guilty pleasures, they should be included in your cost of living. Include literally everything that you spend your money on. And if you were to fantasize about your perfect life, what would that look like? How much would that cost? And then we figure out the actual calculation. So it's whatever that total was from the last slide, you add a 30% cushion on top of it. And that's your freedom number. That's it. Very basic. So if your cost of living is $5,000, your cushion is $1,500. That extra 30% is $1,500. So your financial freedom number is $6,500. That's it. If your cost of living is $10,000, $3,000 is your cushion, $13,000 is your freedom number. And this is the monthly number you got to earn. So for a person who makes, if their entire life costs $5,000 a month, you add an extra $1,500 on top of that. And if they're making $6,500 a month passively, this person is now free. And that's very, very important. Passive is freedom. That's what you have to understand. Residual income, passive income equals freedom. You don't have to be a passive income billionaire, millionaire person. You need to be a passive income person that's making cost of living plus an extra 30% for a cushion. I mean, $5,000 is more than, I think actually $30,000 a year is more than half of the global population's income. Like half of the world lives on $1 a day. 20% of the world lives on $2 a day. That's literally what the numbers are right now. So if you're making $5,000 a month, maybe not in LA, maybe not in Manhattan, but if you were, I don't know, in some like fairly modest city state, even in Cali, you could do pretty well with $5,000 a month. It just might not be in Beverly Hills or something. But $5,000 a month, $6,000 a month is more than enough for somebody to be free. And that's the name of the game. Number 4, part 3, resource management. All right, so what do you bring to the table? This is an important question to ask here. What do you exactly bring to the table? Now, in case you're confused, let's talk about it. And this is our resourceful frog. Look at our resourceful frog. So resourceful. The defining factor is never resources. It is resourcefulness. That was Tony Robbins in his TED Talk. And this thing just hits home so hard for me. The defining factor is never resources. It's resourcefulness. So what does that mean? You have time. So minutes, hours, days, weeks, months, years, decades. That's a resource. Energy, right? So, energy. Can you do something? It takes energy to do this. It takes energy to pick this up. It takes energy to make a phone call. takes a different kind of energy. It's usually emotional and mental energy to make a sales call. Most of us don't physically exert energy, but we do have to spend mental bandwidth. We have to spend emotional equity into the things that we want to create. But then there's also money that is still one of the biggest investments that you can say, I don't want to say the last thing. And then there's, of course, emotion and creativity. And this was the thing that Tony Robbins was making a really, really big deal out of. That if you can if you can leverage your emotional strength, your emotional equity, if you can be creative enough, you can get things done without having all the money in the world. You can get things done without having all the time in the world or all the energy in the world. So the emotion and the creativity, the emotional strength, the emotional quotient, the emotional equity is the fuel to make the creativity actually come up. The ideas will come up, because if you want it bad enough, if it's a big enough reason, big enough deal for you, then because of that desire and that obsessive emotion, the creative ideas will hit you. And then with the little resources that you have, or whatever, with the resources that you have, the ideas and the emotional strength combined with the energy and the time, all of a sudden you get money, right? So if you don't have money, you can combine the other three and go generate some money. Leverage, again, get more done with less. And that all goes into what? The emotional strength part of it, the creativity part of it, being smart with your moves. This is the theme of the entire presentation. So here's our forms of leverage. Compound interest is a type of leverage. And this is not the full list, by the way. There's a lot of different forms of leverage. These are the most common known and most commonly used. So compound interest, you use money to make money. That's leverage. If your money is sitting inside a savings account that's earning 0.1%, or it's under the mattress that's earning nothing, you're not doing anything with that. That money is not doing anything for you. But if that money is earning interest, even if it's in a bad market, you go invest and you buy the dip, right? You don't invest all of your liquid savings, right? We're going to get into the budgeting part. You don't put everything, but you incrementally just keep investing. And just make that money work. Keep making that money work. There's a really great book I think it's called The Richest Man in Babylon. I want to say it's that one. I don't know if that's the one. I think it is The Richest Man in Babylon, or it might be The Alchemist. But it's one of those two books where it just talks about the very simple concept of, if you just keep investing and make your money work for you. Keep investing and make your money work for you. Borrowing money is only leverage when you use it to buy income. In any other situation, if you borrow money, you're not leveraging the debt. You're not leveraging that borrowing power correctly. Borrowing money is only considered leverage when you use that money to buy income, to buy more money. Technology, obviously a great form of leverage. Technology is what is allowing me to transfer all of this information to you without even being in front of you and knowing you and any of that stuff. So technology is very, very powerful. Things like automation, obviously. Artificial intelligence, obviously. This is called asynchronous delivery, where it's like I don't have to be there and I can deliver it to 1 million people if this video catches fire, right? So these are the different types of power that technology affords you. And I mean, there's so much more. But just those two categories of automation and artificial intelligence will probably make your life so much easier if you learn how to leverage them, right? Human capital, other people's time, energy, or money. That is a great form of leverage. Information is an amazing form of leverage. That Hormozi video that I talked about, where he teaches you how to get a business without having to come out of pocket anything, and based on a conversation and agreement, so on and so forth. That is amazing. That information is super freaking powerful. Now, when they say information is power, that's a real thing. If you knew how to legally avoid taxes in America because the tax code is written for business owners, then that's information that you have that you can leverage, and it puts you light years ahead of anybody who doesn't know how to do that. Information is super powerful. So experience, skills, any other kind of data that will increase your chances at success is leverageable information. And your network will be our last item here. It's not who you know, it's who they know. And there's a book called The 6 Degrees of Separation, meaning that anybody that you wanted to be connected to, you are 6 people away from being connected to that person. So 6 Degrees of Separation is a great book for networking and just understanding the power of your network. The elements of a strong plan. So here we go. This is now, we're going to probably get as detailed as we will get in this particular section. But again, my goal is not to get super detailed with this kind of stuff because I don't want it to time out. I don't want it to become irrelevant over time. So the ideal financial philosophy, and this kind of applies to any timeline, is very simple. You earn money, so you earn income perfectly, legally. You keep your cost of living low, so live below your means. If you make $3,000 a month, spend $2,000. Have your life cost $2,000 if you can. Have your life cost $2,500 if you can. Then you invest that difference. So that extra $500 a month or extra $1,000 a month, you save it until you have 3 to 6 months worth of your expenses liquid in some kind of a savings or checking account. Once you have 6 months worth of your expenses liquid, you invest everything after that. And then you buy income. So when you have 100 grand saved up in your mutual fund, you use that money as a down payment. You go get yourself, I don't know, $500,000 loan, $1 million loan, $2 million loan, whatever that allows you, whatever you can afford with that $100,000, and then you buy income. So it's pretty simple. This is like, it's not complicated at all, but it's also super boring and not really fancy. And not very many people want their investments to be boring and unfancy. But it just so happens that this works. This has made so many people wealthy. It is insane, including people that I know. And I mean, I started my way towards financial independence when I started doing this, but I don't think I'm financially free yet because I want to take care of my family. I want to take care of my sister. Like, there's a lot of people that I want to make sure that they're good for. And so it's still a couple of steps ahead for me. But I'm on my way, and I can definitely say that confidently. And I've definitely made the adjustments that I need to make to go from the next one, which is the bad one, to this one. So I'm going to show you what my old financial philosophy was. So this is definitely not, I should have changed that title. That title is incorrect. So this is not the ideal financial philosophy, okay? So you make money, and then you borrow more money on credit cards, and you spend both of your income and the money on the credit cards, and you only just make minimum payments on your credit card balance. So this is your habit. You earn money, you borrow more money, spend everything, and you only make minimum payments on the card. And then you keep spending, and the hole just keeps getting deeper and deeper and deeper. And then you look up, and 30 years has passed. And all of that compound interest, 20% of compound, like the average credit card is like a 20% rate. So 20% compound interest on debt that you were only making minimum balance payments on, and that hole keeps getting deeper and deeper, and the balance keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. All of a sudden, 30 years of compound interest. And now you're in a situation where you're looking at potential bankruptcy. This is crazy. This is not, again, not the ideal financial philosophy. But this is what most of the, at least Americans, is probably what I can speak on most confidently. I don't know what the rest of the world is doing. But most Americans live this kind of a cycle, this kind of a lifestyle. And they blame it on a lot of different things. Uncle Sam, their job, whatever. They blame it on a lot of different things except themselves. And this was me for a very, very long time. Made money, made pretty good money. I was working at a bank, not bad. But I borrowed more money on credit cards, and I just went out, spent it on my girlfriend, spent it on her friends, spent it on anything that I could spend it on other than proper investments or a savings account, anything like that. And the hole kept getting deeper and deeper and deeper. And thank God I didn't wait for 30 years to pass before I noticed. But I noticed that, I'm digging a pretty big hole here. And if I don't make the adjustments real quick, I'm going to be screwed. And so that was the change that took me from this to this. And I think this is, if you can just buy into this concept, forget everything else. If you can just buy into this idea, make your money, live below your, means, live If you make 5,000, spend 4. If you make 4,000, spend 3. Just live below your means, below your income. Save and invest the difference. Get yourself some liquid savings until you don't have to worry about 3 to 6 months of your expenses, 12 months of your expenses, and then just keep buying income. Invest until you have bought enough income that now that passive income will pay for any kind of lifestyle that you want to live. And this is, in my humble opinion, the ideal financial philosophy. All right, so let's address the pink elephant in the room. And by the way, this graphic was designed by Bing Image Editor, which is an AI image editor. And I literally said, hey, I want you to draw me a pink elephant in a therapy session. And there we go. We got a pink elephant in a therapy session. So here's the pink elephant problem. What if somebody really is broke? What if they really are living below their means and they still cannot save? So this is a reality. So I'm not going to pretend that, oh, if you just follow this, everything is going to be fine. Because some people really are trying, they're working their ass off, but the cards that they were dealt in life have put them in a situation where they really can't save. And they really are struggling and they don't know how to get to that next, at least break through the ceiling, right? And so I feel for this very, very, very much. And this is, in my opinion, this is what needs to be addressed. I feel for you, right? My heart bleeds for you. But you know who doesn't care? Your bills, your family, your future dreams, and your responsibilities. So the first thing to address is that I hear you, I feel for you. So what? What are we gonna do about it? That's my thing, right? What can I do to help you get out of your circumstances so you can save, so you're not stuck in a situation where you don't have the money, etc., etc. So here's the situation. What is your best option? You got to work on yourself. You got to develop yourself. If you are in a position, it's a value issue, right? It's literally a value delivery issue. If you're in a position where you can't earn the kind of money that would put you in a position to make, or save an extra couple $100, save an extra $5,000, whatever. If you can't do that, that means your value to the marketplace isn't high enough, which means you got to work on yourself. You're already there because you're watching this video. So, pat yourself on the back. Kudos to you. I'm proud of you for being here. And now you got to keep doing it. Okay, so this video isn't going to give you specific tactics on skill development, but what it will give you is the North Star of the direction that you need to go to. And what you need to do is keep building on this video, on the information that you're getting here, keep stacking on top of it. And the more skills you learn, the better it stacks and the more valuable you become to the marketplace. And next thing you know, you are in a position that you can actually increase your income. But it doesn't work like that. If I keep saying, just go get another job and all you're now doing is exchanging your hours for dollars, it's not the best way to increase your earning capacity because your hours per day are limited. But if I were to tell you increase your skill set from this $1,000 a month skill to this $5,000 a month skill, now those same hours, even if you didn't go into any kind of a contractor position and you just stayed on an hourly position, but your same hours are now worth more because your skill set has gone up and your value to the marketplace has gone up. So working on yourself is the priority. It is the biggest investment that you can make, and it's the move. It's the leverage move. Your most powerful leverage point is you. So just keep that in mind. Here are the elements of a strong financial plan. Apart from working on yourself, these are the things that you got to keep in mind. So income, there's income that's active income, passive income, fine. There's your cost of living and your overhead, which we talked about. There's debt, so there is such a thing as bad debt as well as good debt. There's insurance, which is the backbone of any solid financial plan. If you speak with anybody who is genuinely wealthy, they'll tell you that everything that they own is insured, including their most valuable asset, which is who? Themselves. They are primarily insured, and that insurance plan supersedes everything else. It is more powerful than any other insurance plan, because if I pass away and my earning power stops, then how are we going to pay the other insurance policies? How's the insurance, the health insurance going to be paid? How's the auto insurance going to be paid if I'm not around to earn? If I'm disabled and I can't earn, how's all these other things going to be paid? So insurance is very, very important, and literally ask any wealthy person and they will guarantee, like they have multiple insurance policies. And then you have your investments and your assets, putting the money to work for you. And of course, Uncle Sam, because he wants his money. So taxes, right? And combining all of this, addressing all of these specific instances is what a strong financial plan does. So let's go into that. All right, income. First things first. How can you make money? So, I mean, there's commissions, wages, fees, margins, royalties. There's a lot of different ways that you can earn income. The goal of income, number one, the first goal of income is survival, right? So if your head isn't above water and you're drowning, so to speak, the first goal of income is to just survive. How can you make more money than your life costs so that you're just surviving? Now your head is above water and you can look for shore, right? The next one is swimming to shore, which is doubling up your cost of living. So make your income be twice as much as your life costs, right? That's the second goal of the income. Then you have the excess savings. So it's like, once you've doubled up, don't increase your cost of living, because that's what happens with a lot of people. When they make more money, they're like, oh shoot, now I can go get a better car. Now I can go buy these clothes, and I can go to this many type of restaurants, and whatever. And they spend the excess instead of saving it. And so once you've doubled up your income and you're earning twice as much as your life costs, you want to save that money. Save that money, like Lil Dicky says. And then we got making your annual income your monthly income. This is the final goal of income. And this was something that I got from Patrick Bet-David, one of my mentors. So annual income, which is, let's say you're making 100 grand a year, you want to turn your 100 grand a year into $100,000 a month. That's what the final goal of your income should be. And this is the goals that I'm imposing on you, right? The first two, so survival and doubling up your cost, that's probably something that everybody wants to do. And then the last one is like, well, I don't know if I need to make 100,000 a month. But the thing is, if you're going to be alive and if you're going to work and if you're going to earn and if you're going to do things, why not just do it to get yourself to that level so you can experience that kind of lifestyle? So more than anything else, having the options of just experiencing a life that, you know, you can afford with $100,000 a month, that's a lot of money. You can have the mansions and the cars and you can have a decent, a very, very above decent lifestyle with 100 grand a month. And that's 1.2 million a year. You're at that point a millionaire. You're not a billionaire. I'm not imposing for you to become a billionaire or be super wealthy. But everybody should become a millionaire, in my opinion, because you can. The options are there and you actually can do it. All right, so here are some quick questions to answer in regards to income. Number one, what is your current source of income, or what are your current sources of income? Then, what sources can you add? Realistically, what sources with your skill set, with your resources and everything that you're working with, what can you add? And this will require some Googling. Speak with ChatGPT if you haven't. Go Google, use Microsoft Edge with Bing, because it has a version of ChatGPT inside its search and it can do internet searches with a chat concept. So use all of your resources to figure out, based on your skill sets and everything that you know how to do, what source of income you can add for yourself. And one of the things that I did when ChatGPT came around, and I went and I think I'm pretty good at understanding what my abilities are and what potential I have. But I asked GPT and I was like, hey, these are my skills. These are the things I know how to do. What types of income, or what different versions of income do you think I can generate with the skill sets that I have right now? Without me having to learn anything else, what can I do with these skill sets? And I got a very detailed response of all of the different possibilities. And guess what? I had not thought of a lot of things that was recommended to me by that AI. And so I thought about it. I was like, hey, you know what? I'm going to consider this particular thing. And one of them, I'll talk about it in a different video, but engineering and Python and automation and stuff like that, I used to geek out about stuff like that just for myself, but obviously there's a pretty big market for it. So that was one of the things, right? That was one of the things that now I'm kind of building out something that is going to be released pretty soon, and you guys will see. But yeah, it's important to know what sources you can add and to be able to do an audit of all of your skill sets with the help of an agent like ChatGPT. is very, very important. It's very powerful. It's useful. And then what plans can you put in place to level that income up? So once you figure out what sources you can add, then you look at, okay, out of all these different ideas, which one is the easiest for me to implement right now with the resources that I have, and how quickly will it level up my income, right? And so if you're faced with the option of going and working an extra 30 hours a week at a salary-based job or a wage-based job, and then your next option is, I don't know, creating videos and posting them, or doing a video editing for somebody, and having that be like your side hustle on top of your full-time job, you'd probably, in my opinion, it would be better for you to do the side hustle where it's your own business and you're doing video editing for somebody, because now you can charge higher fees for that, because you're only limited with time, right? So that 30 hours of part-time work that you can do, if you get more clients and more clients that you can handle, now you can increase your fee and your rate, and that would never be possible at a part-time job that you would go get at 30 hours and they'll give you an extra, whatever, $30 an hour, whatever it is. To be able to go from $30 an hour to $40 an hour inside a corporation requires years of work and all of the proof of all of that. It requires so much work that it's almost like, okay, well, it's kind of a no-brainer to just use all of that skill set to just go do your own side hustle for your own thing where you can charge fees and rates like that. Then consider the broker training program that we offer at our firm. So if you don't know what to do, and if you have no ideas, and you just want somebody to train you to help you increase your income, then consider our broker training program, because we actually have a lot of success stories behind our belt, myself included, and we can help you level up your income. Even if you think that you don't know what to do, even if you think you have no skills, and maybe you don't, maybe you're just starting out, or maybe whatever, life dealt you some kind of cards that you are where you are, and you just want to get trained and you want to level up your income. If that's indeed the case, we can help you get into a 7-figure industry. I mean, it's technically a $1 trillion industry, but there are people who are making 7 figures as income in that industry, in this industry. And if that is indeed the case for literally hundreds of thousands of case studies, myself included, if that's indeed the case, then of course we can do it for you too. So if the top 3 don't work for you and you just want somebody to hold your hand and train you and get you there, then we can do that too. Cost of living. Let's talk about that. The overhead is the term for businesses. So cost of living is a consumer term. Overhead is the cost that it requires for a business to run. So needs versus wants. This is something that we have to address for humans, not humans, for consumers. I mean, you are humans, I guess. For consumers, okay, so the average entertainment cost in America is $273 a month. And so somebody who comes in, and I've sat with a lot of people, yeah, I can't save anything. I'm a financial planner by trade, right? I can't save anything. I don't have a budget to save. And then we go through their budget and everything that they're spending on, and they have Netflix and Prime and Hulu and HBO and you name it, Spotify, Apple. It's like, well, do you need all of this entertainment services when technically you could watch a lot of free stuff on YouTube and you could get at least one, let's say get Prime, because it'll give you shopping as well as entertainment as well as music. So one Prime membership will get you music, movies, shows, and shopping, right? Maybe you can consolidate your entertainment budget. I don't know. The average American consumer spends $273 a month on entertainment. Alcohol was a $260 billion expenditure in 2019, and it's an average of $1,300 per person of drinking age. And I am not in any place to judge anybody. I am nowhere near perfect, but I used to be an alcoholic, and I would have like easily 2 shots of whiskey a night, and it was a dark place that I was at in my life. But I'm fully aware of this expenditure, and that gets expensive. Whiskey's not cheap. And especially if you drink that much, it's a pretty expensive habit. So weed is the other one, $200 a month on weed, right? And in 2020, the average cannabis consumer between $500 to $2,500 on weed in 2020. And if it's $2,500, that's pretty much a little bit over $200 a month. And again, that is an expensive habit. And these are the things that, like, you just look at this and you're like, well, if you saved an extra $200 a month, or if you cut that down, I guess, let's say we're not going to ask you to quit cold turkey, because I don't know if you would do that for your financial planner, But let's say I'm your financial planner and I say, hey, listen, if you're willing to just cut out a couple of these subscription entertainment things, and if you're willing to cut out your weed consumption or alcohol consumption or whatever, if you're willing to be comfortable with me enough to tell me what your vices are, because that's the other part, is like people won't tell you everything they're spending their money on. And then when you compare their income to their actual expenses that they told you they had, you're like, well, dude, you have an extra $1,000 at the end of the month. Do you see an extra $1,000 at the end of the month? And they're like, well, no. It's like, where did that money go? Oh, I don't know. It's like, do you really not know? And then, just be real with me. It's all good. Just tell me, do you have these vices? Do you have something that, and then all of a sudden, everything else comes out and you're like, oh, so you do have some pretty bad spending habits here. And if we just made little adjustments, right? $200 a month can actually go pretty far in financial planning, believe it or not. With $200 a month, you can do a good amount of planning to the point that you're taken care of, your family's taken care of, your income's taken care of. I was about to say your uncle. Your income's taken care of, kids are taken, like everything's taken care of. And then on top of that, anything extra would just go into the financial freedom budget. Anything extra after that $200 would just go into, let's buy income with this money. Let's save up to buy income with this money. And that's very, very, very important to address, to understand that it doesn't take much. And if you just understand the difference between needs and wants, if you can just cut out all of the wants for a short period of time until you're set financially, or at least on your feet financially, it can make a huge difference for you. Here's the bitter truth, buddy. A lack of income is rarely ever the problem. With just $3,000 a month, most American families can have better lifestyles than over half the globe. We already talked about this. So the problem is too high of a cost of living. This is the bitter truth for most of Americans. Too high cost of living. This was my story for years. It's the story for a lot of people that I know. The cost of living is too high. And I speak with them about investing and buying insurance, and they're, oh, I can't afford it. I don't have the money. And I'm like, yeah, but you were just in Vegas. You just spent $500 on dinner the other night. What are you talking about? And you can't invest? You can't save money? So it's not income that's the issue. It's the cost of living that's the issue. And if you can address that, most of your financial problems will immediately be solved. And then we addressed the pink elephant in the room earlier. If you really have a lack of income, that is your issue, hit us up. We can train you to become a broker, make your money very quickly, or just double up your skills, right? Like just establish new skill sets that are valuable in the marketplace. And if you search the marketplace and see what kind of values or what kind of skill sets people want to hire for, you'll have a very good idea. And then go through a certification program, some kind of a training program, YouTube University, self-teach, right? Self-taught people do well anyways. So whatever it is, and actually increase your income. But most of the time, income isn't the issue. So awareness is key here. Can you admit to yourself that income isn't really your issue, and it's maybe your spending habits that might be dragging you down? So business costs. The Lean Startup is a really great book on this, because business costs is just a whole conversation on itself, and the logistics and accounting and actuarial work that goes into business planning is a long one. It's a big, big conversation. If you are a business owner or an entrepreneur, The Lean Startup is the book that I would recommend to every single person to read, because it really helps you understand how to keep things tight while you're growing, so that you add more to your margins and your profit, and you can just grow faster because of the fact that you're not spending on BS. So that's a really, really good one. And I highly recommend, if you are a business owner and you earn your money from your own venture, that you look at that. This, in my opinion, is the best budgeting system ever. I did a video on this. It's actually my best performing video. And this was a budgeting system that I learned from the Millionaire Mind Intensive and T. Harv Eker. And it works, you guys. It addresses everything. And I think it's worth it to set either a set of jars up, because originally they called it the jar system. But if you don't want to do jars, you can just get free checking accounts at your local bank or credit union and do it with actual checking accounts. But so your income is split into these buckets, and here's how it goes. So the purpose of the money, and then the amount that we're going to be putting into that purpose, right? So the necessities, your bills, utilities, rent, all that stuff, 50 to 55% of your income would go towards that, okay? And this is, again, just assuming that you're in a position that you can live off of 50 to 55% of your income. Financial freedom account is your next immediate allotment. So financial freedom is the most important goal that we have, right? So 10% before you pay anything else, 10% goes into your financial freedom account. And I would even venture to say that your financial freedom account goes above your necessities. So if you pay yourself first and then go pay your bills, in my opinion, that's the better move. But it may be different for some people, so we put necessities first. Long-term savings for spending. So if you want to buy a TV, I would prefer you save some money inside a savings account, earn a few dollars of interest, and then go pay for the TV in cash instead of financing the TV on your card or on through their internal financing and paying interest for that purchase. The first example, you earned interest, even though it was little, you earned interest for the purchase. The second example, if you're financing it, you're paying interest for the purchase. And so if you want to make big purchases, entertainment system, car, maybe something. If you want to make big purchases, in my opinion, if you can save cash for it and pay for it in cash, it's a better move than financing and paying interest for that same purchase because it falls under wants and not needs. So if you can again differentiate between wants and needs and understand that, oh, okay, I want this TV, I want this car. And so since it's a want, I'm going to budget for it in this capacity, and this is what's going to happen. It's simple. It is a little bit of a prolonged gratification. It's delayed gratification, but it's very powerful and it works. The reason why they teach this budgeting system in every single seminar that they go through for the last 10, 15 years is because this thing freaking works. I think 20 years actually. They've been around for a while. So play account. Here's a good one. This is the spender's favorite account. The play account is the money that literally you have to blow. You got to blow this 10%. I don't care what it is. And the example that I give to people is this. If you were going to go rent a rowboat, like a single passenger rowboat, and you have enough money to rent that rowboat for 30 days, and that same amount of money that's in your play account would rent a yacht for 30 minutes, I would tell you to go spend that on the yacht and experience what it's like to be a yacht owner, occupant, whatever, for those 30 minutes and internalize it in your memory and your cellular memory. I think that's the purpose of the play account. You're supposed to enjoy the hell out of it and really feel what it feels like to be abundant and wealthy and all of that stuff. Then you have your education account, and that's 10% that goes into your self-development and your growth as a person. Initially, it'll probably be in books and maybe online courses and something like that. And then you'll start going to seminars and official courses and you start paying for consulting, things like that. And last but not least is the give/tithing account. And for some people it's 10%, for some people it's 5%. You can adjust this entire system to meet your life needs. But the things that I would say is that even if you're going to change all of these numbers from 10%, let's say you drop all of this stuff from 10% to 5% because your necessities are too high and you want to get out of debt, right? So if that's indeed the case, then you would take all of these and turn it into 5%, or, in my opinion, keep 10% going towards your financial freedom, take the 10% that you would put on whatever that purchase is that you want to make. If you want to buy a TV, whatever, you take this 10% and you use it to pay off your necessities and your debts. You take the 10% from your education and you use it to pay off your necessities and debts. I wouldn't take away from your play because I do want you to enjoy your money, and I wouldn't take away from your future, which is why I recommended that you do invest into the financial freedom account that you have for yourself. And we can help you set up these financial freedom accounts as well. It's basically a retirement account. In my opinion, it should be an index retirement account. We're going to go into that in a little bit, but it should be something that you do set up that can never lose money, and it will grow faster than the rate of inflation. It'll be tax-free, all of that stuff. So actually it can get you to become financially free. But this is the budgeting system. It's very, very simple. Straight to the point. You could do it this way. You can mess around with the numbers a little bit, but just make sure that you address the specific, most important, in my opinion, which is the financial freedom account, because you want to become free. So this is it. All right, moving on to debt. How to use it, how to lose it. Would you rather, let's play a little game. Would you rather buy a house or buy an apartment building? Now, the argument can be made that a lot of people will say that you should not buy a house. A lot of real estate investors will say, as your first property purchase, it should not be the house that you're going to live in. What they will say is that you could use the assets to generate money. So if you bought the building, if you bought the apartment building, you have now, as your first major real estate purchase, you've purchased an asset that generates money. That's what would happen if you got the apartment building. And if you needed a place to live, now you can actually live in one of the units of the apartment and rent out the rest of the units of the apartment. So that way that asset is still generating money for you. But instead of doing that, if you bought a house, a single family residence, and you're living in that house, then you're now going to have to be responsible for that mortgage for the next 30 years. And you either got to work it or, work to pay for it, or figure something out to actually pay for that mortgage, because now that loan that you just took, that asset that you just purchased, is no longer paying you money. You have to pay for it. And it's sure, it goes up in value. Sure, real estate is a good investment, so on and so. I get all that. But immediate income generation is not the name of the game, because now you're living in the property instead of renting the property, and you only have one unit because it's a single family residence instead of multiple units on a building. You could be moving freely. So if you bought the building and you were renting in your own building, or you rented and the first purchase that you got was a rental property that you were having tenants in, and you personally are renting an apartment or something like that, you can move freely. You're never tied down to the mortgage. Whereas if you were living in the single family residence, now you got to figure out to sell it. But if you're in a bad market, then you gotta, if it's a buyer's market, then you have to take lower than you want to, or for whatever reason there might be timing crunches that you have to get rid of the property or something. It's not as easy to move and to be mobile when you live in a single family residence that you're paying for yourself. On the apartment side, you could use the down payment to buy income. On this side, you're using the down payment to buy obligations. So this is the main reason, the big argument that most real estate professionals, Grant Cardones of the world, the Alan Avgis of the world, most real estate professionals will make this argument as to why you should not buy a single family residence as your first house to live in, and you should invest in an income property of some type as your first real estate purchase. All right, how to get rid of bad debt. So this is a conversation. It's kind of uncomfortable if you're in debt. But let's just, let's push through. You can make it. I think it'll be okay. So consolidation is the most commonly form of debt relief that a lot of people know about. And basically, you're combining all of your debt accounts into one account. So you have 3 cards and you want to just have one payment and maybe even lower the interest rate on that payment. So you get a personal line of credit or some kind of other 0% credit card or something, and you transfer all of your credit card balances from those 3 cards into this one. So you consolidated all those 3 into one, and you're doing it with the goal or with the intention of lowering the interest that you're paying. If you consolidate your 3 debt balances into one debt account that has a higher interest rate than your 3 debt accounts, it doesn't make sense. So the whole goal here is to put it in an account or in some kind of a debt product that has a lower interest rate than whatever your current products are, so that it makes sense to do this. Because other than that, it really doesn't make sense. Even if you just want the convenience of one payment, it's like, why would you increase your payment if you just want one payment? It doesn't make sense to me. The next step, which is what I recommend because this is actually a service that we offer, so I'm a little bit biased, I guess, in this way, but maybe you understand why it's so valuable. A legal firm, so we're contracted, we have a relationship with a legal firm that's based out of California, but they do business all across the United States. They specialize in debt settlement. So they'll negotiate on your behalf with whoever is holding your debt. You need to have a minimum of $10,000 for this to actually work. But once they say, okay, we can do this for you, they work with anything, student loans, medical bills, credit cards, whatever. Once they have made that settlement, and they typically settle for 20% of the balance, 20 to 40% of the balance. So if you owe 10, they can settle it down to 2,000 to 4,000, right? Then they buy that debt, and now you owe the money to the legal firm that has bought your debt, except it's $2,000 or $3,000 or whatever, and they split that into monthly payments. And so the monthly payment shrinks immediately. You get out of debt much faster because the balance is much, much lower. And it's literally, instead of a kind of a band-aid on a shotgun wound, you're addressing the actual issue and you're solving the problem with one fell swoop. The only problem with this is that during the time that you've done the settlement and you're paying back that whatever that balance is that's left over, your credit does take a hit. Your credit score takes a hit. So until you pay off that balance, your credit score is going to take a hit. So it's not maybe a good idea if you want to get a mortgage, if you're trying to qualify for some kind of a loan. But if you're not trying to buy anything, or if you're not trying to qualify for anything, then you might as well just go through this and settle the amount and get out of debt quickly. And now you're debt free. And bad debt is what we're talking about specifically. So these are the two options available for you. If you want to take the settlement route, there's going to be a link available for you in the description so that you can speak with either myself or one of our consultants, and they'll explain to you how it works and what it's done. And if you wanted to, and if you qualified for it, you could settle the debt. And yeah, moving on from this one. All right, insurance. In case shit hits the fan. This is an important one. The cost of waiting on auto insurance. So here, we're just going to go through some examples so that you can see what it's like if you have insurance and what it's like if you don't have insurance. Okay, auto insurance is one of the mandatory ones in the United States. So if you drive a car, you have to have auto insurance, right? So if you got the auto insurance, you had no accidents or anything, and it's like the average US rate is $168 a month, right? This is the rate you would pay if you bought the insurance without any accidents or arrests or anything, any claims or anything on your record. If you have one accident on your record, the rate increase is an average of 45% for the accident and an average of 10% because you drove without insurance, right? So it's assuming that you got into an accident and you didn't have insurance, right? And so now you have to get a 45% increase of your car insurance bill because of the fact that you got the accident, and 10% because you were driving without insurance. So it's an average of 55% increase, and that's what it's like if you just waited to get insurance. But none of these things are as expensive as if you actually got into the accident and you didn't have insurance. So your out of pocket, if you got into an accident and you didn't have insurance, the average personal injury case in America is $19,000, and the average non-personal injury, so the person didn't get injured, but the car accident cost damage, is $16,000. So the combined out-of-pocket for you would be $35,000 if you didn't have insurance, right? So it's like, well, do I get it now or do I get it later? Well, what if you never got it? That's the situation. And sure, you can never get into a car accident because you're super safe and all. Sure, that could definitely happen. You can never get pulled over because the cops are, sure, that could definitely happen. But what if you do? Are you willing to take that chance? Are you guaranteeing 100% that nothing will ever happen? Because if it does and you're uninsured, this is what you're looking at. Next example would be health insurance. Now this is a little bit different because the cost doesn't go up based on claims or things like that. So $440 a month is the average US rate for a 25-year-old, right? And it requires a $5,000 max copay. So you're paying $440 a month, and if you had whatever surgery or any kind of medical checkup, you have a maximum annual of $5,000 out of pocket. If you are 45 years old, same thing, doesn't matter if you're healthy or not, this is your rate, $632. So just waiting as time passes, as you get older, your insurance rate is going to go up. And again, same thing, $5,000 copay. But if you did not have insurance, and this is like it's a C-section surgery. So it's a very, very common surgery. And very many people, very many women who are pregnant opt for the C-section. And the out-of-pocket cost for a C-section surgery is $30,000. And with insurance, it would have been $3,200 out of your pocket. So this is what it looks like, and this is why we have health insurance. And the worst one, the most damaging one, in my opinion, which is also, interestingly enough, one of the cheaper ones, is insurance. So $40 a month gets a 25-year-old $500,000 of coverage. That same coverage for a 45-year-old is $107 a month. So $100 a month gets you $500,000 of coverage. And this includes disability, life insurance, terminal illness, critical injury, critical illness, right? It includes a lot of different things. So all of that, $100 a month, $107 a month for $500,000 worth of coverage. But let's say you didn't have life insurance, and say something happened and you're the head of the family, you have a wife, you have a couple of kids, you guys got a mortgage, or not even a mortgage, at the very least you need to pay rent, you got a couple of kids, they need a roof over their head. The average liability for somebody's estate is $354,000. That includes the balance of the mortgage, or the at least 10 years worth of rent, as well as the burial and funeral costs. We're not talking about college funds for the kids. We're not talking about extra money for the wife if she wanted to, whatever. None of that stuff. This is the average cost of the estate. And if you didn't have this, now your wife with her 2 kids, her 2 babies, has to figure out a way to either move in to some place with some guy maybe, and she may take some, she may settle for some jackass because the cards that she's been dealt, and she has to do it because she's trying to take care of the kids, and she's taking a sacrifice because the guy's not cool, but he's, you understand? It's like, it's all of these things that people don't think about because they're like, well, it's insurance, I'm gonna be dead, who cares? They'll deal with it after I'm gone. And it's like, well, yeah, but there's a lot of things that you're not even thinking about that may come up because of the fact that there was no funeral expenses. There was no funeral budget, or like something for the burial cost. There was no to pay the rent. There was no money to pay the mortgage. That's pretty insane. So this is the cost of waiting. And I mean, $40 a month, $50 a month, $60 a month. Who can't afford that? I know people who spend $40, $50 on their own dinner. I know people who spend $40, $50 just on a couple of drinks. Come on. Moving on. The types of life insurance that exist are term. So it's the cheapest one. 10 to 30 years is the term of time that you can actually buy the insurance for. And after that time goes, it runs out. It's the cheapest one. And the money that you spend on this is also gone. So if you spend 10 years worth of premium and you don't die, you don't get that money back, and that is gone. It's very similar to auto insurance. You get auto insurance. If you don't have a car accident, whatever you paid for that auto insurance is gone. Then there's something called return of premium term. So it's almost as cheap. It's a little bit more expensive, the term, but they actually give you your money back if you didn't die within those 10 years. Or if you decided to cancel the policy early, they'll give you the money back. So this is an important concept to understand. There is the type of insurance that's super cheap, but they'll never give you your premiums back. But then, in case you were worried about, it's a cost that I'm not going to see because I'm going to die, and what if I don't die and the term runs out, whatever, they'll give you your money back. And we sell this more than term because, it just logically it makes more sense than regular term insurance because you just don't get your money back. Term insurance is like the only thing that I would use if the person really was tight on a budget and they have absolutely zero coverage and we just need to make sure that their family is covered. Then there's permanent. So there is no longer a 10-year limit, 20, 30-year limit. It'll cover you until you're gone. But then there's the extra option that you can shelter cash under this umbrella of insurance and grow that cash tax-free under with zero cost or not cost, but zero possibility of loss, because a lot of these things, they get a 0% floor. So if the market went below 0%, you stop at 0%. And then when the market returns back up, you're capped out at, let's say, 10, 12%. So you'll never get more than 12%. So you're between 0 to 12%, but you never lose money. And so this is one of the plans that actually falls in the infinite banking concept and philosophy. And we're going to talk about what that is in a little bit. But they use these plans to create those infinite banking plans. And then you have all of these things and then just add living benefits on top of it. So living benefits was to address the question that people had, well, I'm going to die for this to be paid out. And it's like, well, fine. If you don't want to use your insurance benefit, once you die, if you want it as a living benefit, then in the event that you become disabled and you can't dress yourself, you can't feed yourself, whatever, in any of those events, we're going to make sure that you can use this insurance policy. So if you have a $500,000 term insurance with no cash value or whatever, and you become disabled, they'll give from that $500,000, they'll give you a monthly check to pay for your disability. If you have a terminal illness, cancer, stroke, something like that, they'll use the life insurance benefit to pay for the surgery or for your out-of-pocket costs. If you're terminally ill, if you get a critical injury, you got a car accident, or you fell down the stairs or something, anything like that, you can use the benefit of the life insurance to pay for all of these things, and it turns the insurance policy into a living benefit plan. So you can make a living benefit plan out of any of these other plans. And that's the evolution of life insurance. And this is one of the reasons why wealthy people leverage these plans for their estate planning and wealth building, because it literally is one of the most secure forms of asset management products that exist in the market. And I'll show you specifically with the details of how all these things work, so you really get it. All right, so bank-owned life insurance, BOLI or BOLI, this is what happens when you put your money in the bank. And just in case you didn't know, this is how banks make money off of us. And it's very eye-opening, and the reason why I'm doing it is because I want to show you how you can do this for yourself. So this is the cycle if you put your money in the bank, and then we'll go into what it would look like if you created your own bank. So you start a bank CD, right? Certificate of deposit, you put $10,000 in it. The bank goes and buys a fixed life insurance retirement plan. It's called a LIRP. They buy a fixed, not a variable. They don't want to gamble with the money. They want a fixed return. They'll buy a fixed LIRP, life insurance retirement plan, with that same $10,000. The LIRP pays about 8 to 10% as a return. So it's about $800 to $1,000 that they made with the free money that you just put into that bank account. And then they're going to keep the margin. So they'll keep between $700 to $900, $700 to $900, which is 7 to 9%. And they'll pay you 1%, maybe. And then you got $100, right? And then this process just repeats. They just keep using your money to invest and make these margins. They pay you pennies, and then they use the money to invest and they pay you pennies, and etc. This is bank-owned life insurance. And the reason why they do this is because of this part right here. It's a fixed plan. Life insurance companies are the only ones that offer you a fixed plan that is not variable, that if the market crashed and went negative 30% tomorrow, your portfolio won't do that. That's why it's so important for banks to not gamble with that money. Because if they lost money in the market, that means if you wanted to withdraw your $10,000, now where is the bank going to get that $10,000 from? In case you decided to withdraw your $10,000, the bank needs to know that, hey, this money's sitting here, it's secure, nothing's going to happen to it, and we can just use it to make more money. And then whenever this person decides to take it out, we'll just give it back to them. That's why they use fixed accounts, because the bank isn't going to go and risk the money. See, this is the thing. They'll bring it to us, and their investment advisors will say, yeah, why don't you come and open these fancy plans and fancy accounts with us and all of that. And they don't really tell you about the fact that they charge 1% to 2%, 3% management fees every single year, and they want your account for the management fee, right? They would never put their own money in stuff like that, because they know that there's a fixed life insurance retirement plan that exists that they can get 8 to 10% without risking the money and still make a stupid chunk of money, because they're doing this not with $10,000, they're doing this with billions of dollars. So yeah, free money, right? Then there's the bank lending income structure. So it's similar, but it just works with a different plan. So you start a bank CD with $10,000, but then they just lend that $10,000 to somebody else as a credit card. So they'll lend it to me for a $10,000 credit card, and then they'll charge 15 to 30% on that $10,000 credit card or loan or whatever, and that's 15 to 3,000 for the bank. They keep the margin and they pay you your little $100, right? And this is the lending income structure that banks do. Now, lending products isn't something that as consumers we can leverage a lot, so we can't really do this, but we could definitely do this thing, the life insurance owning part of it, and just replacing the bank in this thing so that you end up becoming the entity. And I don't want to give it away, so I'll share this one. So here's how to create your own. So this is the version that we do for us and for our clients, and this is what you can do for yourself. So first, you start an LLC, and you put $10,000 in that LLC. So whatever that money is that you wanted to put in your retirement account, you start a business and you put it inside the business. And then from the business account, you pay yourself as an employee, as the executive, you pay yourself 10 grand as a bonus, okay? So all you did right now, you just put the money from where you earned it, you put it inside the LLC account, and now you're paying yourself as an employee. This doesn't really work that well if you are already a W-2 or salary-based employee. This is good for people that actually earn their money through some kind of a business or a 1099, which is my way of saying you should start a side hustle or some kind of a business specifically for this strategy, right? It's a very, very important strategy. It requires that you have a business account, and mainly because the IRS tax code is written for business owners. Like, the rest of this will not work if you don't have that initial business account, okay? It kind of does, but not like as powerfully as it can. So, okay, fine. You got the 10,000, it goes in the LLC. You pay yourself a check as the employee of the LLC for 10,000, and you go and you buy yourself a fixed life insurance retirement plan, right? This is called an executive bonus plan. So the LLC pays you the bonus of 10,000, and you use your bonus to go buy one of these plans, and the 10,000 is going to earn the interest, so 8 to 10%, and you get to keep that, and you get to reinvest, and it just keeps getting added to the balance. It keeps getting added to the balance and repeats the cycle until you're ready to buy your income property. Then or any kind of an income investment, income business, whatever, until you're ready to buy income, it just cycles through this thing and it keeps earning 8 to 10%. And then you take a loan against it. So you take a tax-free loan against your own money to go buy that income property. And this is how you can get access to the money without paying taxes. And this is very, 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 very powerful, because once these dollar amounts get up there and you have millions of dollars in these accounts, not paying 30% in taxes is going to make a lot of difference. So let's talk about investments and assets. And this is actually, this is, again, really powerful part of this whole thing. So put the money to work. That's the whole idea, right? How money grows is a very basic concept, and they try to complicate this so that you don't know and you rely on these fancy financial advisors. So money grows in 3 different ways. Very, very basic. Fixed, variable, or indexed. Fixed is a very basic fixed rate of return between 0 point something percent to 6%, depending on the plan that you use. Bank savings and CD accounts are more towards the 0%. The government bonds and notes are maybe around the middle, and then you have fixed annuities and fixed universal life policies, which are closer to the 6% range, right? But these are all fixed rates of return. And then we'll see how this looks like on a graph as well. Then you have variable. So it's either from negative 30% to positive 30%. That's typically the range between any kind of variable investment. And this is, stocks, mutual funds, real estate, variable annuities, variable universal life, because there is such a thing as a variable life insurance retirement plan as well, which is why it was very important to point out the fixed side of things. And then we have indexed, which is it's a hybrid version of fixed and variable. And indexed annuities go from 0% as their floor, so they'll never go below 0%, and they'll max out at 15%. And then indexed universal life policies go from 0% to 8%. So you're anywhere between those two. You'll never go below 0%. You'll never go past whatever that cap is. Indexed accounts are considered fixed accounts because it's still a life insurance plan. It's still fixed in a sense that you'll never lose your original initial balance, but it offers you the highs of the variable market, right? It's higher than the rate of inflation, and you actually get your money to work for you. So this is what it looks like on a chart. So we have the blue line that represents the fixed interest account, the red line represents the variable interest account, and then the green line represents the indexed interest account. And these are hypothetical lines, so this is not anything that exists anywhere. This is just to show you the power of the product and what it does. Different companies have different index rates, like all of the disclosures, right? So it's what it looks like if you were, I think, being capped out at what looks like 70% on your first year and then 50% on your second year. So meaning if the market got on this side right here, so we see that the market got 20%, the person starts with 100,000, market goes up 20%, and this person only went up 15%. So it looks like they only got about 70% of the market. So that's another way that indexed accounts work. And market goes up 36%, got 136,000, and this person only got 25,000, right? So the market clearly in this section, the market outperformed the index because it grew past whatever the cap was on that indexed annuity, on that indexed account. But this is where the power of the index comes in. So when the crash happened, this was Y2K and the 9/11 war, and basically when that whole thing happened at the beginning of the 2000 era, and when that really steep crash happened, the indexed annuity just got stuck at zero. So that 25,000 that was made stayed. And instead of picking up from 78,000, because the market dumped, right? Instead of picking up from 78,000, this person is picking up from 125,000. And we see that this red line is more steep than this green line. We can see that it has a higher return in this era between the mortgage bubble that went all the way up to 2008. And the index was not performing as aggressively. But again, 2008 happened, the bubble burst, there was a severe crash, and this person with the index annuity didn't lose anything. And even though the market performed the way that it did, you have this person that's at 137,000. So the one that was inside the variable market ended with 137,000. The person that was inside the fixed account ended up more. So they actually got 150 grand. So they made $50,000 in interest. And then you have the person who was in the indexed annuity that got the highest return of the whole thing. This is again just an illustration, but it's a visualization of what we talked about previously. And you can actually see how the numbers change at the end of the growth cycle. So obvious question, right? So if you had to choose, which one would you choose out of these three? And it's like you can have indexed annuities that can be invested in stocks. You can have indexed annuities that can be invested in real estate. You can have indexed annuities that could be invested in Bitcoin, right? And gold and silver. So whatever you want to invest in, you could do it in the form of an indexed annuity. And this is very different from an ETF index, by the way, because there are a lot of people that say, yeah, you can just get, why don't you invest in the index of the S&P? And if you don't do it through a life insurance plan where it's an indexed annuity and they give you a contractual guarantee that you'll never go below 0%, this is the contractual guarantee right here. If you don't get a contractual guarantee that you'll never go below 0%, then it doesn't matter that you're in the index of the S&P, you're still going to suffer losses. And the indexed annuity is only available through life insurance companies. If you have questions about this, feel free to DM me or request a free consultation. We do these things a lot, and this is designed for people who are thinking about retirement and income and securing their nest egg. So it's a very, very important plan. It's a very, very important concept. I personally would recommend it to any single person, but more people that are in their 40s, 50s, and 60s find these plans appealing than people who are just starting out and they want to go invest in crypto and take risks and all that stuff. So this is the visualization of how money grows. Now, there's a class all by itself for income generating investments and income generating assets. Real estate is the most popular, and they call it a cap rate. So if it has a 6% cap or a 6 cap, that means that the property is earning approximately 6% of income according to its value. So if it's $1 million property and it has a 6% cap, that means it's earning $60,000 a year in rental income. And if it's at 10 cap, that means it's earning $100,000 a year as rental income, right? So income generating asset. Now the value of the property itself could also go up. You can build equity in this asset because the value is going up, and there's a lot of benefits to owning a real estate income property. So if you have questions on this, DM me and we can go into it, and I can send you to a couple of friends that I have in my network that are professionals at this. They have funds that you can invest into if you can't, afford to buy a property by yourself yet. So it's very, very powerful investment section or investment. I'm drawing a blank on what the word is, but it's a very, very, very powerful category of investments. Then you have vending machines. These are income generating assets as well, and it's kind of an honorable mention, mainly because of the fact that the margins are actually really high. So if you can get a 30 to 50% income on the value of the machine. So if you get a really fancy machine, it'll cost $6,000. And on average, they generate $300 a week, or $300 a month, sorry. On average, they generate about $300 a month in revenue. And so that's $3,600 a year. And after a couple of years, it pays off the vending machine, and it's 100% profit and it's no longer revenue. But you need a good number of these things. So if you want to make 36,000 a year in rent, in income from a vending machine, that means you need to have at least 10 machines, right? And if you wanted to make 60,000, like the real estate property is doing right here, then that means you got to do at least 20 machines. So it's not the easiest or the simplest, but it is one of the higher margin income generating assets that exist. And if you don't want to do vending machines, you can do arcade video game machines or things like that, and those do pretty well also. And of course, we have the income annuity. So there is such a thing as an indexed annuity for growth, which we just talked about, but there's also an income annuity. So the indexed annuity can turn into an income annuity and pay you a fixed 5 to 8% income on your balance. So if you had 500,000 in your account and it grew inside the index annuity and now it's $1 million, and now you want to activate the income, and you activate the income on your $1 million, that's between $50,000 to $80,000 a year. And the difference between this and real estate is the fact that there is no tenants to manage, there's no property managers to worry about, there's literally no real estate ups and downs of the marketplace that you need to worry about. The income annuity will never drop in value because it's protected by the indexed annuity. So it's a very secure form of an income generating asset that you literally have nothing to manage, and it's just they send you a check every single month. So it's pretty cool. It is one of my favorite strategies, but again, I'm biased. So these are our 3 top income generating assets. If you know anything else that is a really cool idea and a really cool income generating asset, please leave it in the comments. I'm super curious about this. This is one of those topics that I always want to learn more about. So moving on to the next one. Your most valuable investment ever is going to be, you guessed it, you. You are your most valuable investment ever. So until you get to 100 grand liquid, invest in yourself. Until you have enough money to properly invest in an income property or some kind of an income investment business, so on and so forth, keep investing in yourself and your skill sets and your earning power. And even after you have all that, keep investing in yourself and your investment and your earning power and skill sets and things like that. Never stop investing in yourself. You are literally the most valuable asset that you have, and you will give yourself the highest return on investment than any other business or property or anything that you could purchase. All right, so taxes, because Uncle Sam. The 4 main tax categories are income taxes, because when you earn it, they'll tax you. Sales tax, when you spend it, they'll tax you. Capital gains tax, because when you grow it, they'll tax you. And estate tax, because when you die, they'll tax you. These are the 4 main tax categories. Now, income tax is the one that is kind of across the board. It's a federal and state tax, and the tax code was written for business owners. So if you're working as a W-2 employee, there aren't a lot of places where you can get deductions, right? And the income tax-free states, because if really the only way that you can truly avoid it is to move to an income tax-free state and then figure out a way through a business to deduct your tax liabilities and tax obligations. The income tax-free states are Alaska, Florida, Nevada, New Hampshire, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, Washington, and Wyoming. So if you're not in those places, you may want to consider moving if you want to get yourself a nice discount on your taxes. If you are in those places, I hope you're enjoying your tax break, because pretty nice. Sales tax. You spend it and they tax you. There is no federal sales tax. There's only state sales tax. And unfortunately, there's no legal way to avoid sales taxes. Certain items can be written off, sure, if you're buying it through the business, but really the only way to do it is to move to a tax-free state. And so that's Alaska, Delaware, Montana, New Hampshire, and Oregon, but most states do charge a sales tax. Now, capital gains tax. So this is a big one as well. So there's a federal and state capital gains tax, and this is the tax that you pay on the gains of your assets or your investments. The money that goes into your investments can be subject to tax in 3 different occasions. So it would be when you deposit. So if you want to have a deduction at the end of the year, deductible deposit from your income, that could be something. So an IRA, traditional IRA, is something that deducts your initial investment from your income taxes at the end of the year. So simple. You made $100,000. You put $5,000 of that $100,000 inside your traditional IRA, and now 5,000 is deductible from your year-end taxes, so you only pay taxes on that 95,000. But these types of accounts get taxed later, so you don't pay the tax now, but later when you do withdraw the money, you do have to pay taxes on it. It's very similar to paying taxes on the forest instead of the seeds that built the forest. Then you have the gains that, or excuse me, the taxes that are applied on the growth of the account. And so this is during the accumulation period. Now, if your money is being taxed as it's growing, it's considered simple interest. But when you don't pay taxes on the growth, it's called compound interest. So the interest gets to compound on top of itself and on top of itself. Simple interest is like a bank CD or something like that. It literally gets taxed every single year that you earn interest, but compound interest just grows without taxation until you're ready to withdraw the money. And then you have the withdrawal portion. So when you withdraw your money, you will be subject to taxes depending on how the money grew and how the money was deposited, right? So the money gets deposited. If you deduct from taxes, then you would have to pay it later on as the withdrawal. But if you didn't deduct from taxes on the deposit and you actually pay taxes on the deposit, there's a pretty good chance that when you withdraw the money, you don't have to pay taxes. And so all investment vehicles actually fall into one of three different tax categories. So you can pay taxes this year at the end of the year. They call it tax now. And taxes are just due at the end of each year. And this is like mutual funds or CDs, something like that. Tax later, also considered tax deferred, is when you don't pay taxes on the deposit. It grows tax deferred or tax free, we can call it even. But when you do withdraw the money, you do have to pay taxes. And these are 401ks, IRAs, real estate, 403b, anything of that sort. It grows tax deferred, but then when you cash it out or when you withdraw from it, you pay taxes at that time. And then you have tax never, quote unquote, but it does get taxed at the beginning. So it's like when it's the smallest amount, at the very beginning when you put the money in, you pay taxes on that input, it grows tax deferred and tax free, and then later on you get access to a tax free or through a tax advantaged loan and you don't have to pay the loans back. And these are things like the cash value insurance policies or the life insurance retirement plans that allow you to grow tax deferred, not pay taxes towards the end, but towards the beginning. Even if you did not do the infinite banking strategy that we talked about, but if you go through the infinite banking strategy and you move the money through the LLC, pay yourself, etc., then the LLC gets the tax break at the beginning on the contribution. It grows tax free. You get to use tax free money, buy the income, etc. And I don't want to repeat all that thing for you, but yeah, that's basically what it's like if you had a taxed never account. And of course, you can either move your assets to a lower or just a different type of tax category to eliminate your tax liability altogether, or when everything else fails, just move to a state that doesn't have capital gains taxes. So things like Alaska, Florida, Nevada, New Hampshire, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, Washington, and Wyoming. So these are our capital gains tax-free states. And finally, we have estate taxes. When you die, they'll tax you. And this is actually the most brutal tax that's in the code. Imagine you just died and the IRS says, okay, we're just going to take half your stuff because you didn't plan properly. And that happened to a lot of people, a lot of influential people. Martin Luther King is one of the most famous ones. There was a lot of influential people that didn't plan their estate properly, and when they passed away, their estate was subject to probate and estate taxes. The federal estate tax is really, really high. But because of the fact that it's so high, a lot of states let you slide without actually having to pay estate taxes. And I'm not going to read this list, but this is the list of estate tax-free states, which is pretty much everybody, almost everybody. I have not counted to see how many of these states are on here, but it seems like almost all the states are on here. So this is the estate tax-free states, and we're going to talk about how to plan for it properly so you don't even have to pay federal estate taxes. Now, how to legally avoid it, federal and state. This is like a brief overview. There's the family trust that costs a couple of $1,000s to set up, but it protects pretty much everything in the estate. And then there's a life insurance trust that doesn't protect physical assets, but it will protect all financial cash assets and deliver that as well as the insurance benefit to your heirs completely tax-free and probate-free upon your passing. So this is like a quick, simple way to legally avoid estate taxes. Now, this is my favorite tax strategy of all time, And this, if you run this properly, verify with your accountant in your specific state and jurisdiction just to make sure. But this works in most environments, and it's lasted the test of time. So this is actually the only tax strategy that I think I'm sharing in detail in this thing, only because of the fact that it's been around for a long time, and I truly feel that it's going to be around as long as there's rich people around. So if there's rich people around, this strategy is still going to be around. So here we go. Number one, you want to establish a business, right? So we talked about this in the infinite banking thing, but you want to establish a business, and then from that moment on, take all of your income as deposits into the business account. If you can get paid directly to the business, do that. And there's a lot of companies that if you even are an employee, they'll let you do that, and they'll let you get your paychecks paid to a business and then deposited directly into a business account. Then you pay for most, if not all, of your expenses from the business account, so that you just have a record of the expenses, and just find out again with your tax advisor what is deductible and what you can write off from your business as an expense, and then pay for all of those things from the business account so it can be an expense and it can be deductible. Then you pay yourself personal income, which is again another expense to the business, so that's a write-off to the business, but you only do this for major necessities that you have to do for yourself, which ends up being the personal executive bonus plan that you fund for yourself. So the money that you're paying yourself as the bonus goes into the executive bonus plan, and then you use that money to fund a life insurance retirement plan or a cash value insurance policy. It grows in there, and then you borrow from that as a tax-free loan, zero interest, and you never have to pay it back for yourself. And because of the fact that it was a loan, it's not taxed as income, and the IRS will never come after you. So this is a very simple overview of this process and how you can technically, legally avoid most of your tax liability. Please verify with your accountant and your tax advisor in your jurisdiction. There's a more detailed breakdown inside the actual book itself, or you can speak with one of our consultants if you want to talk about this thing. But this is kind of a nice overview of one of the most powerful tax strategies that exists in America today. All right, so we have come to the end of our presentation. So it's really now about you and your next moves, right? And in my opinion, it's just figuring out what it means to you, right? So what is your financial personality? If you don't already know, figure it out. And then what do you got to do? What are your beliefs? What are your habits around money? How can you adjust and plan for those things so that you are aware of your quirks and your philosophy around money, right? And then figure out your freedom cost. Figure out what your financial freedom costs. Use the financial freedom calculator and get that number, and then obsessively work towards finding a passive income solution for that number. Then figure out your resources. Inventory everything that you have available: knowledge, skills, tools, resources, money, time, energy, network, your Rolodex, your ability to be creative, the technology that you have, anything that you have that would be considered a resource. You need to figure it out and make an inventory of it so that you can use it properly. And then get started. It's literally, none of these things are going to mean anything until you actually take action and put the rubber on the road. Then you'll know, okay, this is not going to work as fast. This will work super fast. Oh, wow, that didn't work at all. So on and so forth. And you find out the real life applications of your personality, your resources, and everything like that. But it takes time, right? You have to sit somewhere quietly without any distractions and take the time to figure these things out and answer these questions. And then once you do, you will be empowered enough to actually take the action. The book itself is Leverage, the last ever financial planning book you'll ever need ever. There are a lot more details in this book that I did not cover in this video presentation, but there were also details in the presentation that aren't being covered in the book. So it is kind of a hand-to-hand thing. I didn't intend it that way. It's just as I created the video presentation, there were some things that came up that I was like, okay, this is probably good to address. So Leverage is the name of the book. It's available on Amazon if you wanted to check it out. It's available on my website for free if you just want to download it, but it does require an opt-in. So if you don't want to opt in, you can go get the book on Amazon. If you don't mind an opt-in, and if you want to join our community, you can get a copy of the book for free, and that'll be available in the description of this video as well. And so this is me and my contact. If you ever have any questions, hit me up. I'm pretty responsive. and I do answer DMs, and I do make sure I respond to comments and things like that. So you can find me at officially Arman on most social media, and the YouTube channel is the Value Plug. If you have not subscribed already, please do so. I really hope that you found value in this video, in this presentation. I'm gonna cut this thing. And so yeah, that was it. That was the video presentation. It was a long one. I have no idea how much time we just spent recording, but I did expect it to be a long presentation, and hopefully it was valuable. Hopefully it was eye-opening. If there are questions that weren't clear, or questions came up about concepts that weren't clear, please go ahead and leave them in the comments. I will respond to your questions, and maybe we'll even do a second version of this. If we get a lot of questions that weren't addressed, then we will address all of the questions that the community had in the second version of this video, and then that will be the last ever financial planning video you'll ever need ever. But other than that, that's it. That's literally it. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your patience, for your attention, and I hope that you got something out of it. Until next time, my name is Arman Vakili, and this was The Value Plug. Talk to you later.